Welcome to Crochet Basics Part 15. Today I'm going to talk about making a border. Making borders on projects is really a very simple thing to do. It's just a little bit extra time involved in investing into your work, but it makes a really nice polish difference. It's worth the effort to do. However, there are some things that can be confusing, and I hope today to demystify that for you. All right. So I have a little piece here that I've worked up, done a couple things with it. I'll start at the top. It's easy to work a border when you're working in the stitch tops or in the stitch bottoms. Really simple to do that. But when you start to work in what is called the row edges, see, here's my rows. It worked back and forth. The row edges, that's where a lot of people get very confused. And my piece isn't perfect here, but there's a point to be had with it. So I hope to do that in one piece. So you have to work on the sides. There's no little stitch loops that are neat and tidy for you to work into. That's okay. It's really not that hard to do. I'm going to show you with contrasting colors, such as in this piece, how to do that. My piece that I show you will look like this edge. And this is not a bad edge at all. It doesn't look quite as neat and tidy as its opposing row edge, though. And I will explain that. Look how nice and even that is. All right. Let me set this piece aside. Mysteries will be answered in a little bit. All right, I have another little piece worked up. I've done a couple things here to demonstrate what not to do. These are some of the common problems with row edging. When I lay this down, this piece keeps curling up, okay? And I'm being a little more dramatic with it here, but I'm making a point. It's going to curl up always because I don't have my stitches spaced out very well here. I have too few stitches, and too few stitches means it's going to pull. And what I have here, this piece, if I were doing a double crochet post, would be in a light ruffle. Well, that's maybe not what I want either, if I just want my piece to lay flat. But you can see how few stitches I have here. Now, I've grossly overloaded those row ends with stitches. So I'm going to show you how to go about and get a nice even edge. All right, we're going to start in this corner. It's easy enough to do it along here, but it's a little bit harder to do when you're talking about the row edges. So I have a little piece worked up here, which I've done single crochet, half double crochet, and double crochet, just so I can show you how to evenly space your border stitches out along the row edges. A general rule of thumb is 2 single crochets or whatever stitch you're using, single post stitch, on each row edge if you're working a double crochet piece. So you see how these are taller posts. So working 2 single crochets in each row edge gives us a good even border. These middle rows are half double crochet. Good rule of thumb there is to just alternate 1 stitch, 2 stitch, 1 stitch, 2 stitch for each row edge, and you'll see me work that up. And then for single crochet, 1 stitch per row edge. All right. I say that's a general rule of thumb. A lot of this is going to depend upon your own personal tension and just your own personal stitching. The goal is for it to lay flat, unless it is intentionally supposed to have a ruffle. But the goal is to lay it flat. All right, so I'm at my end stitch here. I'm going to go ahead and pop 2 more stitches in here because one of the rules for adding a border is we have to work around that corner somehow. When you're working with single crochet stitches, 3 stitches in the corner makes a perfect turn. So there we go. And now I am on my little row edge here. I've already gotten a stitch in, and these are my double crochet rows here. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick up a loop, or two in this case, and work a single crochet there. If I decide I have to put 2 in there because it's a double crochet and that's the row edge, then I could end up having that be over increased and this corner sticking out kind of funny, like that. All right. And so knowing that when I put my 3 singles in this corner, only one of them is truly a good corner stitch. This one belongs to this edge. This one, this third one, belongs to this edge. All right. But now I come across my next row edge, and I have a choice here. I know I want to allocate 2 stitches to it, and I want to do it evenly across. I tend to use like the little holes between the row edges here. I just pop my hook in. I tend to put 1 in there and then just pick up a loop or 2 in this side stitch or row edge and just put 1 there. Okay, so that's what I tend to do. Let me show you how else you can do it on this row edge. You can bypass this little space occurring between the rows, and you can just work 2 stitches in this row edge right here. You can do that. All right. Either way is fine. It depends on what kind of look you like the best. I'm going to pull this back a couple stitches and show you something else that you have the option of doing. It is not my preferred way of doing it. You can wrap all the way around that post. Makes it easier to crochet it in, but it also pulls a hole there. Okay, I did that on this side as a, hey, you may not want to do this. Let me show you that. See all those holes that are created? Let me pull in my other piece here for just a moment. And while there are some gaps that show here, it's not as noticeable. And here you can see that right here as well, just not as noticeable as it is when you wrap around the post like that. All right, so I'll pull those back again. And I'll continue on this way, the way I prefer. All right, so those are my double crochet rows. Now I enter my half double crochet rows. And what I had said before is alternating 1 stitch, 2 stitch, 1 stitch, 2 stitch. Half double crochet is between your single crochet and your double crochet. And if I'm doing 1 stitch per row edge down here for my single, and I'm doing 2 stitches per row edge up here for my double, in the middle, I kind of want to alternate that. So I'll go ahead and just pick up a loop here. This one will be 1. And then here, for this row edge, I'll do 2. I'm going to use this little space in between the rows, and then I'll just pick up a loop here. So 1, then 2. My next row edge will get 1. Okay, and I might just jump right here. Okay, and then 2. Like I had said before, working into the sides of the stitches as opposed to wrapping around them, but I do think it's worth the effort. Probably not the news you want to hear if you're working on a blanket, but that's okay. All right, so then I come to my single crochet row edges. I did more single crochet rows here so I could demonstrate this. Then I am just going to be working 1 stitch per row edge. This one might be a little bit tougher to work my way through. I'll just pop it in. Okay. I don't think I got the whole strand. All right. So there it is. My stitches are fairly evenly spaced across. And if don't look down here so much, look at the top. Okay. There's no pulling up at the corner saying it's too tight. There's no ruffling saying you have way too many stitches in here. So it's quite a difference from the opposing side, isn't it? Okay. And then I'll show you again the corner. All right. I'm going to grab that first stitch there, and I'm going to work 3 into it. So I've worked around the corner. And you'll know you're doing pretty well if you pick up that middle of the 3. And when you pull on it, it truly doesn't belong to either side. It is the corner stitch. Sometimes when you're working on a piece and you'll think, my corner, it's so weird. It's shaping more down here or more up here. You may have to move up a little bit further or over a little bit further to do your 3 turn the corner. Again, the first of the 3 belongs to this side. The last of the 3 belongs to this side. If you have 2 stitches belonging more to one side or more to the other side, then you need to adjust that. So pulling in that middle stitch, that is your true corner. All right. And then we work our way on down. And I'll show you how you finish that off. And then I'm going to show you a nifty little trick to get nice even looking stitching all the way around. And it's super simple to do. All right, so I've come to my last stitch. I'm going to just pick up that first of the beginning 3 single crochets and slip stitch it together. All right, and I don't think at any other point in the basics videos I have shown this, so I'll do it now. There you go. We're going to finish that off. I'll have people come into my classes concerned about how do I finish this now that I'm done with whatever it is I'm making. And they get a little freaked out when I tell them, just pull your hook, just whip it up. They're very concerned about that end and their work coming undone. There's a lot of people who will make a chain and then finish it off. I don't do that. I just pull like that. So yes, that stitch looks like it's hanging loose in the wind. This is how I handle that. This stitch I just slip stitch to, I'm going to come from the back to the front, grab that yarn tail, and pull it to the back side. So that's more often than not how I'll finish that off. That end is going to get woven in. And I've already covered that in one of the videos, how to do that. So it's going to get covered in. You can kind of play with that and make it look like it's a stitch in there if you're bothered by the way that looks. There's ways you can do that, but this is basics, and that's how I basically handle it. All right, that is how to make a border, a very simple basic border. How to make that border as neat as you can make it. Okay, again, I want you to look at the left side and the right side here as we're treating the row edges. There's a difference in that, just like I just showed you, I was working the contrast color border into the row edges on this side, but on this side I had done something a little different. It's a whole lot tidier. It matches the stitch tops or the stitch bottoms where I'm working into the loops. And my secret here is, for half of this square, I had already done a single crochet border using the body color of the yarn. I didn't fasten off at the last row. I went ahead, you can see it right here, where I worked 3 single crochets. And then, can you see the V's, the legs of the stitches along the side? I worked them so that it's pretty much invisible to your eye unless you're really, really looking and picking it apart. And I did that down here. I've got my single crochet in the stitch bottom loops, but then I ended that over here. So you won't see those V's, those stitch legs over here. Where you're going to see now is the green yarn. And you can see that it's a little uneven. This is a little deeper than that is. That's a little deeper. You can see the stitches are at different poking points, I guess. Whereas you really don't notice that over here. What your eye is going to be drawn to is that neat border. So it's worth the effort to spend the time making round one, at least a single crochet border of the same color of the body of your project. And then if you want that contrast color on there, to add it on. It just makes it a whole lot tidier looking. So that is making the border, and that brings me to the end of our basic series. I hope you'll stick around and subscribe and follow and see what else I have coming up for you in the future. Thanks. Happy crocheting.